This passage is on Aztec history. It's got points about how they viewed history, how they recorded history, and things like that. The passage was slightly difficult to read, but the questions could be answered if you understood the flow of the passages properly, a flow of the points in the passage properly. Let's have a quick summary before we look at the questions. The Aztec historians, creators of a genre called Shupawali, developed a highly effective way of keeping satisfying memories alive. So they developed a good method of keeping their memories alive. The pictographic texts that the Itzcoatl burned were only a part of the Aztec way of keeping history. The glyphs served as mnemonic devices designed to elicit volumes of speech. The image, so basically he's saying they found a way of storing, recording what was going on. And what did they do? They had pictographic texts to record what was going on. Part of it was burned, but they were only one of the way. They also had these glyphs which served as devices designed to elicit volumes of speech. The image of smokes billowing from a burning temple reminded the speaker to describe a certain group's defeat. A winding sheet over a chief's head sparked the story of his death. So they had all these pictographic images which told the storyteller what to emphasize on while narrating the story. How can we know the details of exactly what they said? Their narration, counterintuitively in some ways, have been preserved because of the Spanish Conquest. Intuition, what you expect to happen, right? Your feeling of what is the natural course of things. Counterintuitively is against what you expect as a natural thing. So he says that their narrations, what they said, exactly what did they say, the pictographic script has kept part of the story, but how do we know what they exactly said? He says that counterintuitively was preserved because of the Spanish conquest. You would expect conquest to destroy records, but here he says counterintuitively the Spanish conquest preserved what they said. How did that happen? The Spaniards aimed to produce a local elite who would help them rule. So they educated many of the boys and young men in the Roman alphabet. So when during the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs, they wanted to develop an elite group which could, obviously high class, which could read. So they taught young boys and young men the Roman alphabet. It was the priests who taught them so that they would be able to study the Bible. So the priests, the Spanish priests, taught them so that they could read the Bible. The indigenous studied scripture with the friars, and inevitably they took the sound transcription system home with them. So the local people would learn with the friars or the priests, and they took the sound transcription system back home. So they learned the sound transcription system. There they asked the elders to tell them old stories as they used to say them aloud. And then the young scholars wrote down their elders' stories, listening to the sounds of the words in Nahuti, their own language, and transcribing them onto the paper in the best handwriting in the alphabet taught them by the friars. This is how they recorded it. The Spanish taught them the Roman alphabet. These guys came home. There they asked their elders, tell us those stories. And they recorded the stories in the alphabet or that they learned in their best handwriting. The sounds of the words in Nahuti, their own language, but they wrote it in the Roman script. For many years, however, scholars read them with skepticism. There are a lot of doubts on this. The histories were not like the books such as the Florentine Codex that the Aztecs wrote working side by side with the friars, answering the Spaniards' questions and drawing pictures of a specific plant or god. These histories weren't like the books, like the Florentine. So there's a book called the Florentine Codex. The Asterix wrote them working with the friars and answering the Spaniards' questions. So the Spaniards wanted to know more. They were asking questions, and these